Hey, what's happening, everybody? Robert Phoenix. I'm back. So are you, and hopefully in a few minutes, so will the Creamies. And as always, with the first Friday of every month, they or thereabouts, they show up and are part of the conversation, bringing their unique skill set and uh, complementary viewpoints. Today, we're going to be talking about Pisces-related things. We're going to be talking about Selkies and Mermaids and all kinds of really interesting aquatic phenomena and lore. And it looks like they're right here, right on time. All right, let's see who we have in chat. We've got Michael Pafford, Andre Garland, Paulette Hansen, all pumped up this morning listening to Laura Branigan's Gloria. Didn't Trump have that as part of his campaign? Was his not his campaign, but his speech he did at CPAC? Well, I'd really like to hear Trump do the Patti Smith version of Gloria. I think that'd be interesting. Maybe Babalog. Maybe the song that follows Babalog. All right, let's bring the Creamies in. Where are they? They're supposed to be here. I'm not seeing any image yet. All right, who else do we have? Hello, Tomas. Good to see you. 1-0 Dragon, Kabuki Theater. There's Ryan. Jennifer Rubin. Is there a Robert retreat later in the year? Yes, there is. Absolutely. And I hope you can make it. There's my man, Masaki. Masaki and I, we have, for me, kind of later night tech sessions. For him, not so late. Nurse Tara, what's going on, Nurse Tara? Good to see you. Lisa Marie, good morning. David Olmstead, don't worry. You're not that late. You're not that late. I'm not seeing the Creamies here. Stephen Chris, I'm not seeing your camera. I don't know what's up with that. Not seeing your lovely images, lovely faces. Let's see. Persian Scribe is here. Hello, Persian Scribe. Debisu, Ian Barber, Leon Luis, Susan, who's listening in from Arizona. There's our friend Lils and Double B, Beth Berry. Let's see. Oh, somebody's talking about Jordan Peterson. Saw some recent post, and he sure is depressed. He's not the same guy. I mean, I think he is the same guy. I don't think he'll be the same Jordan Peterson that we once knew, and that's okay. People change. Double V's in the house. What's going on, Victoria V? April 9th. But listen, Jordan Peterson is doing a lot better. Now, the Creamies have left. They'll be back. He's been doing a lot better than he was at one point. I mean, the guy was in a coma, right? Medically induced coma. I just do not see the Creamies here. I don't know what it is. Stephen Chris, I don't know if you got your camera on or not, but I'm not seeing it. High search criminal on DDG. Not sure I understand its use here. Someone clue me in so I don't slow the class down. I don't know. Creamy. Oh, Creamy. The Creamies are a couple. That's their last name. Let's see. Be there in a sec. Okay. We got Danon Whidden. What's going on, Danon? Big hugs back. Johnny Cruz. He's here. I do not know why we're not seeing the Creamies. Very odd. Let's see. He's a gem with a Grand Cross. Saturn conjunct North Node. Rahu, he's going into his Saturn return. Second Saturn return. Yeah, I mean, Jordan Peterson is an interesting character. Like, there's a lot of really good things about Jordan Peterson. You can learn a lot from watching Jordan Peterson. But there's always that third rail that he does not want to approach. And he's always willing to talk about Nazis and fascism, and he equates this idea that if one group sort of reverts to tribalism, then that's how it's going to go, right? If one group reverts to tribalism, it's going to just end up in the Third Reich. Everybody's great fear is that if one group sort of rediscovers its, kind of ethnic and historical roots, that automatically they're going to be possessed by demonic Norse gods and put everybody in ovens or whatever, right? And then he goes there. He actually goes there. They have figured out their technical issues.
Torment. Okay.
No, what happened was Brave wouldn't let us in. It kept spinning out. It wouldn't connect fully.
Brave is not the browser to use for StreamYard.
No, so that's what we've been using. But so I had to open up Opera and plug in that way. So
good. So that
good. Worked.
Yeah, I've had some issues with Brave with StreamYard. I mean, StreamYard, like a lot of these tend to be Google or Chrome centric, but it's not as bad as Apple's
Safari.
Browser,
No, it
Safari.
won't work. Yeah,
it won't work with Safari. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So that's it. So nothing but getting knocked off your base as you're beginning to do a show.
That's anyway. Okay. I mean, this is how these things go. We have Uranus Saturn square, and chaos is
surprise.
Yeah. Oh, look who's here. Look who's here.
Where's the boy?
He's right there. And hold on now. You're gonna disconnect the show. You want to come over here? You come over here. Come on. You know where your spot is. It's right here. It's right here.
Hey, Jasper, can he hear us?
No.
Oh,
can't hear
too
us.
bad.
Maybe not.
Yes, in his way.
Audibly, yeah. So just in case you're new to the proceedings, that's the astrological cat.
Yes.
I think I have the astrological cat song. Should I play it?
Play it.
Sure. We haven't heard it in a while. It'd be great.
All right. Let me see if I can find
Since
it.
this is an astrological show and we're talking about peace gaze today.
Yeah. So let me see if I can locate it here with the 100 other items on my desktop.
Everybody loves that song. And who made it for you?
A really, really nice couple from Joshua Tree.
That's better.
Okay, where is it? It's like, where's Waldo on my desktop? Jasper, where is that thing? Where is it?
Chris and I tend to have opposite looking desktops.
Yours is probably Steve. Yours is probably immaculate, right?
Mine's folders within folders within folders.
Yeah. It's the Gemini story. Chris's desktop probably looks a lot more like mine.
The Jupiterian.
Yeah,
Stuff all over the place.
Yeah, but then I go into Virgo mode and then I manically clean it up.
I do that too.
Mm-hmm.
I do that too. Yeah.
So where is it? I don't know if I can find it right now.
Right? Isn't your? I think Chris's Jupiter is in Virgo, right? I think we figured that out.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Steve would know.
Oh.
He would know about these things.
Would he?
Yeah, I think so. He's got.
When I first met Steve, he said, "I know everything." How do you know that? Well, I know that because I know everything.
It's the only line that's ever worked for me.
So you've been with him for a few years now. How close to his pronouncement was he?
Spot on.
All right, look at that.
Almost. I mean, there would be one or two things that I would say he didn't know, but by golly, his well runs deep.
That's really very supportive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I know because she told me.
I tell him.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that's why you guys are still alive and thriving.
Right. Whereas the first husband is long gone.
Yes, Steve took care of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
He probably had some mob help along the way.
Well, actually, he shot himself in the foot. Really.
There was a point
There
was a point where I thought I might have needed some mob help.
Right.
There you go.
He was He was in. Well, he was damaged. Unfortunately, he was
damaged,
not
yeah.
not a bad person.
He was a very good person, actually.
No, he was a Virgo too.
Virgo?
He's a Virgo.
He was. He was really picky.
He's an uber Virgo.
Mm.
He used to tell me, the problem with you, Chris, is you don't have a system.
He said that to a Sagittarius? Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Sagittarius is all about the system.
I know. But he was really detail-oriented.
So you guys
fastidious.
You guys had a T-square love triangle.
T-square love triangle.
Yeah, Sagittarius, Gemini, and Virgo.
Huh.
You had a mutable love triangle going on. Something had to give. It was Mr. Virgo.
Yep.
And this one stuck nicely.
Yeah, it did.
Right. Well, what's going on with everybody out there? We're going to bring the topic right now to the front of the line. We're talking about Pisces, and we're talking about Pisces-related ephemera, magic, mythology, lore. So the idea for this show came to me when I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to start to try to program the Friday FARcast via kind of astrological seasonal content.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this makes sense. Let's see how it goes. This is really the first. This is the first show that we're doing along these lines, and luckily, you guys are so versatile that I could throw that out there, and you go, okay, well, what about this and what about this? So okay, that's good. Next week,
basically command performance.
Yeah, you guys are like the Wrecking Crew in LA.
I don't know. Oh, is that a group? Is that a?
Well, Wrecking Crew is a group of musicians, studio musicians who recorded for everybody, but they can play anything. Which is, you guys are like that.
Thank you.
So next week I'm going to have Susan Kennard on the show, who is a channel. She's a channel, and then I haven't firmed it up yet, but I'm hoping to get Kavenna Charlotte, who was on a show previously with myself and Masaki. So do a 2-hour show, 1 hour each with them, and that's kind of a Piscean theme, channeling, psychic work, things like that. And that's how this thing is going to work. So today we're talking about Selkies, but other things as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the Creamies, as always, and I think Steve has probably a lot to do with this, sent me 29 images that we're going to go over. And I also downloaded one of the clips. I think I downloaded both, but I have the one clip from the Rowan Inish movie.
Good.
The dark one, part 1. That's the one that's 8 minutes long.
So you can play that, no problem?
I can play it. It's not a problem. I just can't roll the movie clip because, well.
Oh, so you're just going to do audio?
I'll do audio, and maybe we could just like start and stop and listen to it a little bit, and discuss certain things that might come up through the dialogue. Again, you're watching the Friday FARcast. This is our good friends, the Creamies. Their information is listed in the show page. They have a new Vimeo channel, and then we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then there's a link for their publishing company also in the description for the show. So all your information, Creamy-wise, is there. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and do our little invocation here because, Chris, I know you probably want me to do that, and I think other people enjoy it. So I'm going to do that. Here we go. Dear blessed and holy Mother and Father God of the great central sun, within universal light, which is the light of Yeshua, Sananda, Emmanuel, and all the great avatars who have walked amongst us, we ask that only the highest and best truth, information, and wisdom come through this channel for everyone watching this transmission at this time. And we affirm and decree the qualities of creativity and imagination, wonder, magic, expectancy, faith, and let's throw in a little hope today. And above all, love. We ask that any karmic residue be cleansed, clarified, purified, and removed from this stream. Okay.
I like the awe and wonder part.
Yeah, because that's what we're kind of talking about today. We're talking about things that
Wonder.
are transcendent and they're magical and they have resonance, and sometimes they bring up, intense and sort of deep emotions and feelings, and sometimes they bring up, other things that are connected to magic and the ability to be lifted out of our world of mundane and dualistic crises. So I think it's important.
And that word wonderful, we toss it around and don't think about it, but it really is full of wonder and awe.
Yeah, I would agree. So really interesting side note, and it's kind of related to the invocation thing. And I sent this on to Misaki and a couple other people. I'm going to play this video on Monday. So I got this video, and there's this guy who was being taken down in a parking lot, like a 7-Eleven, mini mart parking lot, and he's being taken down by these two cops. And this guy goes into this rant, and he starts calling out for Yahweh, and oh my God, it's incredible.
Oh, really?
Oh, this thing is incredible.
Really?
I mean, it is like somewhere between parking lot roomy and weird celestial incantation, and he's actually kind of funny too, right? And then the cops tase him, and the taser like strengthens him.
Oh no!
Really?
And he throws
Like
them
Kundalini.
off. He throws them off like they're ragdolls. This is not like a huge guy. And then he goes running off across the gas station and the parking lot and into the night. It's actually quite something.
Where did you find that?
I don't know where I found it.
But those ambles.
Yeah.
Well, I've had a couple incidents like that at working at the psych hospital, where you would just be like holding on to somebody's arm with this superhuman strength, and you're just like flying around the room just trying to hold on to one arm. It's astonishing, and you have all those stories of whatever, people lifting trucks to get people out from underneath, in these moments when the rules of physics break down.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Why don't I just play it?
Oh, yeah. I'd love to see it.
Let me just play it. Okay. So so this guy, the reason I brought it up is because it's connected in some ways to the invocation piece. You're going to see this. All right. So let me play it.
That's great.
It's worth 2 minutes and 30 seconds of our show. All right. There we go.
And sound. So we're not hearing anything.
Yeah, we don't hear anything.
We can't hear it. We can't hear it. Hello, Robert. We can't hear it. Like he can't hear us either? Robert, we can't hear it. He doesn't say.
Hold on. You can't hear it?
Hear it. No.
Okay, I don't know why you can't hear it, because...
And could you not hear us either? Because
I could hear you fine. Hold on. Let me see if I can do it again. Now, theoretically... Hold on. I know why. Okay. I got to do this. Give me 1 second. Hold on. I shared the wrong app here. Hold on. It's going to be right. Oh, shit. Hold on.
does it stand?
People, I know they... Oh, I know why. Let's do this. Sometimes you use screen share and you got to go between browsers because shows up on one browser, not another. It can be a real pain in the ass. Okay, here we go. This should solve any kind of audio dilemmas. All right, let's do it again. This for now. Back here. Okay, let's tee it up. There it is.
Charge!
There's a warrant out
For
for you.
what? For changing my name. Look it up. What is
Put your
that?
hands behind your back.
I am not.
Put your hands.
I am not going with you. I object to this. This
You
is
don't
not
have
legal.
choice.
You guys that do not own me, I'm not your property. It's illegal.
You're under arrest right now.
For what? What charge? What is the
There's a
charge?
warrant out for your
For what
arrest.
charge?
United Regional Police.
What is the
It
charge?
doesn't matter.
Yes, it does.
Doesn't matter.
Do you have no compassion in your life?
You're under arrest.
What for?
Doesn't
What is
matter.
the charge?
Okay.
It
Doesn't
matters.
matter.
It's my life, and that is my wife.
That's right.
And I am at peace with every man in the nation, and you men are violent. And
No.
this needs not to be. All I did was change my name, and your evil witch queen says it's not allowed to be.
You're resisting.
I am resisting your aggressions
No.
against me in favor that they are illegal. And I am not your property, and I have changed my name, and I am not a criminal, and I am never in crime, and I'm at peace.
You understand you're under arrest?
I am understanding less of anything that you say. I do not speak your language. I am in your kingdom. I do not
Wow.
belong to you. I belong to my Father in heaven, and his name is Yahweh! Yahweh!
Wow.
Wow.
Yahweh! I call in prayer
Okay, let's
and invoke the angels and archangels in favor of protection. That it be then heavens bless.
Buster.
That I have less that I am in their hands, but that it is I am at peace with my Father in heaven,
Bless.
and I am in bless in life. And I favor that you are illegal in your actions. And I call on the compassions of the universe in favor. And I say it is less that I can be. I am a poet and an artist. And I sing a song less for you. 7 ways less the boys in blue. I favor less the thunder in your ears. I'm 7 ways it's less I shed your tears. I'm favored in the way I am less to you today. I'm less that I would favor anything I savor in the day. I'm favored in the bliss, it's less I see. Favor less
Hey, what
the
are
way
you
it's
doing?
less. The boys in blue for me. I'm favored in the day I am. A man of might. It's less that I belong to you. It's less that I would fight. But it's less that I would marry you. Favor less is less you're bright. I am the man who is less than me. 7 ways favored in the song I sing from sea to sea.
Understand you're
I
under
favor
arrest?
less is less I name you Jubilee. Jubilee. Jubilee downtown, favor off. It's less I turn my head and cough for you. I am a Jew. I belong.
There's no need to use a
He is
taser.
illegally tasering me. I am defending myself in favor of that.
Holy shit. Wow.
Wow. Oh my God.
Wow.
World's wildest.
Wow.
God
So-
bless them.
So that was really Piscean, right? Tapped at a gas station, and we've got in the gas station we've got petroleum, oil, very Piscean thing flowing, right? And the guy's almost like he's almost channeling there. I don't know what the hell's
Yeah,
going on.
yeah. I was thinking
Yeah,
of that.
but
He's
and he's
speaking
got
in
the-
tongues almost.
The 2 police officers, and they're connected. You know, we'll talk about this later with the 2 fishtails and the connecting point.
Hmm.
He was the connecting point between those 2.
Hmm.
Um,
And they're wearing
that'll
that
come up later.
calm, watery blue of the
Right,
police force.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the more amazing videos I've ever seen. Actually,
Wow.
Good
So,
for him.
yeah, good for him.
Good
And
for him.
invoking the cosmic powers of protection.
Yeah. Would you also include the link for that? Because I think I want to share it.
Yeah, I'll put it in the description of the show.
Right. Thanks.
Great. Thanks.
All right.
Well,
So,
let's
Let's
Well,
keep
well,
jumping into it.
we don't have anything quite as exciting, but so let's jump in.
right.
Okay.
So go ahead.
So I kind of gave you, I put the pictures in a particular order, so maybe especially probably the easiest thing to do, since you were talking about Janus
Yes.
yesterday, I believe it was, right? And
Mhm,
you know, with some frequency. So we just, because a lot of this has to do with, we're looking mostly at Ireland and Scotland as far as this goes, except when we get to the myth of it. But that is the famous Janus stone in Ireland. It's on this little island, fairly close to the border between Northern and Southern Ireland.
Mhm.
And what's interesting, it's just sort of this complete anomaly. It's sitting in this cemetery that is, you know, much more recent, and nobody really has a clue, you know, as to how old or young or too much about it. So and what Chris was noticing too about the top. Yeah.
Right. So clearly, you know, you can't see it, but there's a face on the other side as well.
Mhm.
And this line in the top, there's a well, a cup in the middle there, a depression for oblations. So whoever was using this stone was, I would imagine, using it for ceremonial purposes.
Mhm.
But I think it's very significant because Janus is the god of thresholds.
Mhm.
And we are at a threshold right now
Mhm.
in the whole world, and the whole art culture in America and everywhere around the world. We're facing in both directions. We're looking ahead to the future, which is still an unknown, but we might get a sense of it or a rasa of it, a taste of it, because the future is always going to contain some elements of the past, right? It's all going to be in there. That whole package is moving forward in a trajectory. So you're looking backward and you've got the old, but then there's the new that's coming in, and you maybe get a sense of what good might come in, because there's, you know, whatever we're building now will be the foundation for what's to come, right? That makes sense?
Yeah, it does. I think based on what we're seeing culturally, they want to do everything they can to eradicate the past. You know, we just saw Dr.
Yeah,
Seuss get
But they
burned.
can't.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I agree, but they're doing everything they can,
Yeah.
and clearly, you know, I believe that, you know, we've gone through a number of resets, many of which we don't have any memory of,
Right.
a lot of which we're trying to piece together in sort of
Mhm.
this, you know, retrograde or retrospective kind of sleuthing, so that it can awaken maybe something inside of us. So I think it's possible to eradicate the past, and I think, but do I think they're going to be successful? I don't believe so. But I think we could clearly make a case that there are times where it's actually occurred, and I feel like we're still in that moment where we don't really know kind of what the future is going to hold. I mean, we get
No.
hints and glimmers of it, and sometimes, you know, things seep through that are interesting and positive, and then we also get other sort of darker glimmers of, you know, what lies ahead. But we're getting to this point now, and I don't know how long it's going to last, but it feels to me like, you know, the mask is starting to come off. And I don't know if it's a prelude to another more permanent mask state, which could be, but we're seeing now kind of this movement, especially here in this country, where more and more states are saying, no, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
We're done with this. So I think that we might be getting closer to whatever this, you know, apotheosis is, and we're going to be on the other side of that
Mm-hmm.
Janus experience. But we will
Mm-hmm.
we'll be changed. I mean, that's the whole
Oh, we'll
part
be
of this.
changed,
will
but
have to
our
be.
actions that we take now will lay the foundation for that future. And we have a say in that. They don't get to say it all.
Yeah, I'd agree wholeheartedly with that.
And maybe why, and that's why in right in the beginning you were going to talk about holy wells, which is, the ground, which is underneath all of this duality, right? If you get back to the substrate, and that's what some of the mermaids represent. So maybe, we can, the next picture is just the same stone, but with a picture of Chris added when we were in Ireland. So this is from a trip to Ireland we took in 2000. Nope, one before that? No?
Oh, no, I think that's, number 2 is, my bad. Let me see what we have here. Okay, got it. It said copy. I thought it was.
Same.
I thought it was like
location.
Yeah, I thought it was.
No, yeah, that was
copy.
That was my fault in translating the files.
Okay. There we go. There she is. Look at her.
So so that's the 2000 model.
Oh, right.
And so at least you get an idea of the size of it.
The scale.
And like I said, it's an old graveyard, it's at a very something like an island. And it's just off the road. There's, things in Ireland are just here and there. There's no
no
lead
fence,
up.
There's no protection. It's just there.
So you can go to the next one. Go ahead.
It kind of looks like a gray alien version of Colonel Sanders.
Right.
Right.
Well,
right.
Now that I look at it, it reminds me of Göbekli Tepe, the way the arms are crafted into it.
Yeah. So there's a symbology with the arms, with the crossing and all that. But then also, again, this gets back to we'll get to it later with the two tails touching. But also Janus is a crossroads. And I've been writing a lot about Hermes and crossroads lately. So this is a well. It's Patrick's well. A lot of them are named after Patrick. And isn't St. Patrick's Day is what, the 13th or something? That's actually coming up, right? What we used to call amateur night. Stay out of the bars on that night.
Exactly.
Lots of vomitarium stuff. So anyway, what's really cool about this one, and this is unfortunately a little fuzzy picture, but I got a couple others. At this particular well, it comes up into this pool and goes off into those two directions. So I've never come across another well that does that. So back to the Janus theme again, all right. And so the water comes up. It's supposedly the coldest water in Ireland, and it comes up like 600 gallons a minute. And it just, these two streams, one to the right is fairly significant, and one to the left is a little smaller, but it's obviously at the top of some balance point. And it's right by the side of the road. And do you remember how we came across this well?
Okay, so this was really a sweet story. Our first night in Ireland, we went to the bed and breakfast and asked if there was a place to eat. And the woman directed us down to the local pub. And when we got there, we sat down and the waitress brought us menus. And when we opened the menu, inside the front cover of the menu was this description, a full page description of their local holy well. And we had this book at home. Where's the book?
That's it.
Crossing the Circle at the Holy Wells of Ireland. I'll just put it up so you can see. Somebody might want to be interested in that and actually pick it up. And I was like, oh, gee, I didn't know we have that book at home. Yeah, I'm kind of interested in that. Let's go see. And she gave us directions how to get there. And that was pure magic. That one was pure magic. But then the next day we were having lunch and we asked the waitress, where's your local holy well? And every town we went to had one. So she said, oh, I remember. And she was a young girl, but she said, I remember when I was in grade school, they took us to this place in Belcoo. It's right on the border between the north and the south of Ireland. And she said, the thing I remember about this well is that the water went off in separate directions. So that's how we discovered this one, which was a real treasure. And if you look to the left, the part that goes off up to the left top corner, That's actually going underneath the highway.
Yeah.
It's
You
not
go
a
to the
highway.
next
It's,
picture if you'd like.
okay. It's a road, but there's a church across the street there. And they had what they called a swearing stone. There was a cross, right?
Mhm.
A swearing cross right by the bridge. And they would have their market days, and you would put your hand on the swearing cross, which was stone, and you would just swear that your sales were accurate, your weights were accurate, and you were being honest in your transactions.
Right, it's where all the deals were made, and that's also links back to Hermes, because in Greece they had those things also, because Hermes is also the god of boundaries,
Oh.
and there would be these herms, which people would also swear on. Hermes also the deity of commerce,
Wow.
so that's a connection back to that. So, but I love this one because it looks like the prow of a Viking ship coming out over the waters.
Yeah.
So this is the one that most likely Chris took. Chris takes
Yeah,
almost
I took this
all
one.
the pictures during our vacation.
Great picture.
Except
Really
ones of
good.
Yeah,
her.
it really captures the magic, I think, and how clear that pool is when the water comes up. So across the street, that little church is in ruins, but it had some very interesting windows that were about this wide.
Right.
They were so narrow, and they were actually called leper windows. And they said that those windows were there for the lepers to actually look in and observe the services without, they were socially distanced, without mingling with the congregation so that no one would catch the leprosy.
Yeah, and leprosy is a real issue.
It's a real thing.
Yeah. So
but we don't shut down the economy for leprosy, do we?
No, we didn't.
don't
No,
recall
we
that
didn't.
happening anywhere in history.
Ever.
So the other thing about this pool is that it has a mysterious white trout somewhere, kind of like Nessie, that only a handful of people claim that they've ever seen.
The magical white trout.
The white trout. So, and that's, deep into Irish lore, that the trout eats of the berry of wisdom.
Right.
And then if you eat the trout, you become a bard, basically. That's your path.
Like that.
And you're filled with, the whole,
tradition.
the whole tradition of bardic wisdom. So there's that, and that also that particular, and also wells all have a particular, not calamity, issue that they will healing. So so this one is for nervous disorders.
Oh, interesting.
And also with these wells, there are families that take care of them and have there's a prayer or a saying that goes with each well that unlocks the healing power. And they're usually a local family with deep tradition that will go and check them. That will if you are whatever you need to do to get the little mantra to open up the well for you.
Right. Nice.
And so this is also part of it. So Chris can talk about
So
this.
There are three components to a holy well, and they do what they call rounds or stations, and they'll go to certain points on the landscape and say 10 Hail Marys, 5 Our Fathers, 2 acts of contrition, and so on. So you've got one component is a stone, the other is a tree called a clutie tree, and the third is the water or the well. Now, this stone has the name of Bullen stone, and it has a cup depression in it, and that's where oblations would be poured. Often it would be milk or honey. And so you find these dotted all around different sacred sites, but especially at holy wells.
And very much, pre-Christian.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So the clutie tree is a tree that's nearby the well. And when you go, you see those pictures in Nepal of the mountain passes where people tie the cloth to a tree. Very similar kind of a thing going on here. And the word clutie is Clootie, and it means cloth or rag. So you would take a piece of cloth or tear a piece of rag, and if you had, like, let's say my shoulder where I broke the bone, I could touch that cloth. I could dip it in the water of the well to bless it. I could touch it to my shoulder, and then I would tie it on a branch of the clutie tree. Then that clutie tree helps to take your suffering away. It takes on your suffering. So these trees are completely covered, and sometimes they have coins pushed into the bark or little, I even saw like bubblegum wrappers. It's like whatever people have, they use. And then, of course, the third component is the water. And a lot of these wells have, with the bullion stone or just an anchor stone, they'll have a chain with a metal cup attached to it and nailed into the stone. So you could dip into the water. A lot of people would bring their own container to bring the holy water home again, which actually we even did in Turkey when we were in Asclepion, at the Asclepion. There was a holy well with healing water. And we were able to take some of that water home as well. So this is a tradition that is all around the world, but it's very well codified in Ireland. And they do these rounds and prayers in these areas. And, you know, you'll just be driving around the countryside and you'll see a sign that says, oh, St. Sorny's well that way. And they're just everywhere.
Right. Yeah. So I guess then you can see what's next. I forget what's next.
It's the St. Sorny's well.
Right. So this is just, I put these up. You can go through these relatively quickly, but this is a well from the 500, well, not the well, but the St. Sorny is actually a woman, which I didn't realize it, but this is just like, you know, we were just driving and saw this signpost said St. Sorny's well. So we went to it. And so this is some woman saint, St. Sorny, of which no one remembers anything, interestingly enough. Founded a church there in the year around the year 500, 550, something like that. But that's all they really know about her. And it's one of the few that's named after a woman. And I didn't know that until just now, because I just being prejudiced, I just heard St. Sorny and I figured it was a guy's name.
I did too. Well, it kind of sounds masculine.
You know? So anyway, and I think there's another picture.
Well, I was just going to say about this one, we had the hardest time finding it.
Oh yeah, it was because it was overgrown.
It was behind a little church, and we knew there was a well here, but you can see all the overgrowth, and it was really hidden. We had to search for 20 minutes, half an hour.
I found a new picture. They have actually cleaned it up and made like a rock wall, a circular rock wall behind it. So they've done a nice job with that, at least. So maybe, go ahead.
So St. Sorny, let me see here. I found this while you guys were talking. This might shed a little light on St. Sorny. Found it. So St. Sorny, new dancing monk icon. Let me see.
Abbess Love Notes.
I found that when I was doing some, and that'll pretty much give you about everything I knew about her. That was one of the websites I found too.
Sorny is one of the female Irish saints for the 6th century. While there is little written about her, two of my favorite sacred sites are dedicated to her memory. The first is on the island of Innismore. It's said to be her hermitage. There's a signpost off the main road, but the path is quite overgrown with brambles. The chapel itself is in disrepair. Only part of it remains, but standing inside, you can imagine the saint there seeking the grace of silence and solitude on the holy island. When you step out the front door, you see the wide sea beyond. Later in her life, she was called to Drumacoo, near the village of Kilcolgan, about a half hour away from Galway City. A large church ruin appears ruined. The cemetery with more modern mausoleum attached to the side. Further back is a holy well of St. Sorny. When we first visited it, it was quite overgrown and a bit hard to access without tripping over stones and tree roots. But the people from the community and the public Office of Public Works have cleaned it up beautifully. There's now a set of stones in the circle to mark off the opening of the holy well and a clear path around it for walking the rounds, which we do on our own for visits when we bring pilgrims there. We don't know the details of her life and service, but I love that despite this, two beautiful sites persist. 1,500 years to carry her spirit forward. So I guess she's a dancer. They decided she was going to be a dancer. Why not?
She tripped the light fantastic.
Why not?
Well, isn't there's one passage in one of the Gnostic Gospels, was it to Thomas, where Christ is dancing?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He dances with these apostles.
Interesting thing about the holy wells is that if they're neglected or if they're desecrated in some way, like if someone gets caught washing their laundry in it, it will just get up and move. It will leave.
Yeah,
Spiteful
Interesting.
wells.
they will take off and move, or they won't work, or they'll dry up. Yeah, they'll just dry up and
They'll
go
in.
elsewhere.
Wow.
You know.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That
well,
looks like Steve. Is that Steve?
that
That's
would be
Steve
that would
Curran.
be me 2000.
Okay.
I'm actually a tad thinner than I was then.
So this is still at St. Sorny's Well.
Yeah, it's the
Yes.
same place. But you can
It's
see
a,
how it's all
it's,
overgrown.
it's a modest well, isn't it?
Well, that's
Some
it.
are even smaller than
And
this.
there was just, like I said, it's just off a side road somewhere, and there's nothing about it. They have other, bridges, other more touristed wells.
Right.
But I thought we'd just show you those two as an example of Irish wells,
Right.
and then this leads to one of our Piscean stories,
Which is?
Okay.
which is about the bowfin.
Oh, the bowfin.
The bowfin. So we're talking about, and this I like this one because it's really not known at all.
Do you want me to show the
next picture.
the well of the white cow?
Yeah, this is the story of the white cow, and you can show the well of the white cow for this.
Okay. So I'm having a very interesting time trying to navigate the keyboard with Jasper.
Oh, is that
Oh,
what's
really?
going on?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Chengiz has been like scratching at my leg looking for more food. I just blew him off though.
So this is a sweet story. Bouncing off the story of the Selkies, and some people may already know it, but for those who don't, the Selkies are seals that live on the coastal areas of Ireland. And there is a lot of lore about them and their interactions with human beings. And they're kind of sliding from seal into human. And so the seals who are the feminine can shed their skin and become human. And so they will sometimes fall in love. Okay, so one time this happened, and this lord of the area went down to the shore, and this Selkie came up, and she shed her skin. He fell in love with her, and he brought her back home and married her, had a family, children, and they had to hide the silky skin, because if she finds the skin, she'll put it back on and go back into the ocean to be with her people. So he hides this skin, and then at some point she finds the skin and she decides, I really need to go back. I need to go back to my people because there's some special thing that I have to take care of. Something has to be done for the world. So she's down to the water side, and all the people follow her. And it was on Belthana, or we know it as Beltane, May 1st. So she goes down to the water at Belthana, and she enters into the water. And she said, I want all of you to come back here 1 year from today, and I will bring back a gift for the people of Ireland. So she goes into the water, and then a year later, everyone goes down to the shore, and they wait in anticipation. And then all of a sudden, at noon, the water starts to bubble up, and up come 3 cows, a red one, a black one, and a white one. And these cows were a gift to the people of Ireland. And the red one, now the one goes to the north. I think that the red one went to the south and the black one went to the north. But the white one made a trajectory all around the perimeters of Ireland. And everywhere this cow went, there was a holy well named for that cow. And the word for white cow is bowfin. So if there was a pool or a well that was associated with that, it would be called Loch na Bobana. So the well of the white cow. And then ultimately that cow ends up going to the Hill of Tara, which is dead center in Ireland, the Hill of the Kings. And just all the blessings that were given as the cow went all around Ireland were all marked by each of those holy wells.
Mm.
So this is one of those examples. This is the well of the white cow, which we did not see.
No, we didn't.
You
We
found
didn't
this
know
online?
that. We didn't know of this until later.
But
Mhm.
I've never seen this name for the Selkie. In this particular tale, it was called a berush, like
Mhm.
Bearooch.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a different.
Berush. But one of the most charming stories I've ever heard with the three cows, which then at a certain point I realized they map on perfectly to the Indian structure of the three gunas, which are red, white, and black, and those are three
Mm.
qualities. So red is rajas, which is passion and movement and activity.
Mhm.
Tamas is heaviness, darkness, solidity, firmness, and then what's the third one?
Sattva.
Sattva. Sattva is light, knowledge, purity. And when those three are in balance, then there's harmony in the world.
Mhm.
So those three cows are the absolute representation of the three gods that end up in India, who also happen to revere cows as sacred.
And those, just to further explain, the gunas in yogic philosophy are they're not just the world, but they're the aspects of our experience. So our experience is either and there's a mixture of all of them in all of our experience.
Mhm.
You know, so right now I'm being active in speaking, but I'm trying to be sattvic and calm in my inside so that I can do that. And, you know, then I have to be sitting on a chair, which is tamas, because it's solid, you know, otherwise I just fall through existence. So, you know, so those are considered aspects of experience, and yoga, the yoga philosophy is, you know, an understanding of experience. It's not an understanding of the world out there or anything like that. This is a very different way of looking at things. So there's that. So there's those three qualities that are in every experience that we
Mhm.
have,
Mhm.
you know. And if you had like a pure sattva experience, would be like a samadhi, there would be no other, you know, no other things going on. It would just be like, you know, pure intention and
Right.
attention. So I think there's
Well-
something else about that. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I
Oh.
think this is going to have to, you know, pass the muster of critical race theory. You know, the white
Mhm.
cow.
Mhm.
The white
Mhm.
cow is
Oh.
going to have. The white cow is going to have to be
Silly.
re-examined. Like,
Right.
why is it the white cow that gets to fly all over Ireland?
Right. Right.
Whoa!
That's right.
What? Uh-oh.
Ooh,
See, Jasper, look at that.
Is
Look,
he
he's stirred
okay?
up. No, he's
Oh.
fine. Hold on.
he's being very rajasic. He's full of
He's
rajas.
rest. He's full of
Yeah,
activity.
Look what you did.
Aw,
All right.
Jasper's in trouble.
So I don't think Robert's plugged back in. I see a tail still.
Well,
going.
anyway, I just love that you can see that those three qualities find their expression in all these different
Wow.
cultures.
Wow.
That was. I'm so lucky to have this light. Now he leaves. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Creature chaos
That's it.
leave.
He's got it. Hail Eris.
Yeah.
So the other thing about that story that you find, for example, is a story about this a person named Abaris who traveled from Central Asia to Greece to meet with Pythagoras, and they were both devotees of Apollo.
Mhm.
But while he went, he kind of traveled in this circle, and everywhere it's like this blessing of the landscape
Hmm.
by something holy. And there are a number of traditions. I think the Native American with the
White buffalo
tobacco,
calf.
white buffalo calf woman.
Mhm.
All right,
Yeah,
it's another one that
that's right.
that also, you know, sacralizes the landscape and the people in the world.
And the
So,
buffalo, sure,
you know,
sure. And Abaris carried a golden arrow that actually, carried him,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So here we have a nice little depiction of Pisces. All right, and
Were you going to play that about the?
well,
Were you
later.
going to play that? Oh, you can play the clip later
Yeah, maybe
from
we'll
the movie.
see. I know we got kind of a hard out, I guess. So
So here we go. Sign of Pisces. You see the two fish, right? Right here. One here.
Mhm.
Right. One there. and a little bit of duality as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the two paths, right? The two paths with the two parts of the constellation here. Interesting.
Right, right, and it's a very it's hard to see because it doesn't have it's one of like the lowest of all I forget what it called, luminosity, I guess, of all the constellations.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought we'd go right into the myth of Pisces.
Yeah.
All right. So the myth of Pisces starts. It's in ancient Greek, and the word is ichthyes. Ikthyes. That's the word for fish,
Mhm.
or two fish actually, or maybe just fish in plural. So it's always two fish. So what happens is there's you can actually get to Typhon if you want.
You mean like one fish, two fish?
Red fish. Oh no, Dr. Seuss. No, we can't say we can't use that anymore. It's over. Nor is the what is it? The three-handle family Griselda or something like that. But Yertle the Turtle is really the only one that I ever liked. So what happens is there's a number of variants, but this one, I'll tell you this one, that there was a revolt against Zeus in Olympus, and the revolt was fed by basically his mother Gaia,
Mhm.
who was I guess kind of, either one story is that she was just upset that what he did to the Titans, which were her children, and sending them into Tartarus, etc. So she gives birth to the largest monster of all time, Tartarus. So this is a medieval woodcut. What's that? Typhon.
Typhon.
Typhon. Yeah.
Right. So his arms reach out 100 leagues, which come to 140 miles. He's got serpents everywhere, and he's supposedly 100-headed, fire-breathing, and he's pretty nasty. So he storms Olympus, and all the gods, as in the Monty Python with the rabbit, run away, run away, run away. So they all run off Olympus, and the only one who stands is Athena. She stands against Typhon, and what happens is she kind of shames Zeus into coming back. But in the meantime, all the other gods don animal forms, and they go hightailing it off to Egypt, which is kind of an interesting variant. And the one take on that is that the Greeks are trying to say that so almost all the Egyptian deities have animal heads.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is, the Greeks are actually trying to take precedence for the Egyptian pantheon, by saying, well, no, that was our gods that went over there, and put on animal heads. So it's kind of like a little bit of Greek mythical propaganda going on.
Mm-hmm.
But so meantime, in one part of Olympus, Aphrodite and her son Eros are trapped. And what they do is turn into two fish, and in I guess the river of Olympus, it's not too clear, two fish help them out. This is Zeus fighting Typhon on a Greek vase. You even got Zeus's name on there. So Aphrodite and Eros, her son Eros, now they had been separated at some point, so what they decided to do, they turned into two fish and tied their two tails together so that they wouldn't be separated.
Mm-hmm.
They go to a river, and two other fish, who are probably, I guess, better at being fish, take them on and lead them to safety. When they are led to safety, in a reward for the good turn they did the gods, they were turned into the constellation Pisces. And there's a great word for this. It's called catasterism. Catasterism. So that's the word for when somebody gets turned into a constellation. So the two fish were catasterized.
Mm-hmm.
That's Aphrodite and Eros.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, and then the kind of the rest of the story with Typhon and Zeus is that Typhon actually wins and takes Zeus and imprisons him in a cave. And what he does to prevent him from escaping is cut his sinews, so he can't escape. Meanwhile, so trickster Hermes somehow finds his way in and sews up Zeus's sinews so that he can emerge. And he throws one thunderbolt for each of the heads of the Typhon. And finally, of course, all these monsters are never fully defeated. So he was actually placed under Mount Etna.
Mm-hmm.
And where so that because he's fire breathing, so that's the so every once in a while he gets to burp up some volcanic activity. So that's the basic myth of Pisces.
Yeah,
and this is from I think either Herculanum or Pompeii of Aphrodite.
but then if you just remember back to when we first started with the two police officers and the person who was being held down, you could see that he was the connecting point. It's like the tails of the two fish being tied together at that vertex.
Right, and what star is at that vertex?
I don't know.
Al-Rasha.
Al-Rasha?
Al-Rasha. Al-Rasha. So the point where the two tails meet on Pisces, there's a star called Al-Rasha, and the definition of that is knot.
Is the knot.
Is the knot.
K-N-O-T.
So that's the knot where they're tied together. And I'll just read a quick thing. This is from Bernadette Brady's Book of Fixed Stars, which you're probably familiar with. So it means a knot, point of contact between the fish, 2 points of knowledge, joining of different concepts to create wisdom and understanding. So if this is your heliacal rising star, you will have a need to find unusual connections in the search for how the world, mind, and soul work. So that would be a major theme in your life.
But I like to see how that person who was being accosted by the police was spitting out wisdom.
Yeah, it was. You could look at his face, and it almost looked like something was taking over him. You could see like this transfiguration of his face take place. If you go back and watch the video, you'll see it. Something comes over that guy in a very powerful way.
Yeah, it was powerful.
Yeah.
When he called out, what was he calling, Yahweh or
Yahweh?
Yahweh.
Yeah, and that also reminds me of wisdom in Buddhism is two-pronged. It's compassion and knowledge, and one without the other, is not particularly useful. You have to have them both working on. Knowledge just ends up by itself as in your head. Compassion. This is perfect, really, because compassion without knowledge is like the Green New Deal.
Compassion without knowledge is leftism. It's just progressive, virtue signaling leftism.
Yeah, because they think right.
And wisdom without compassion is it's Mitt Romney and Bain Capital and buying up companies and cutting gutting them, right?
Very true.
Yeah.
So this stuff doesn't go away. So I guess I had a couple of questions. I thought maybe I could address this to you because all right, so talk about the age of Pisces too, if you want to extend it out, right? So so we are theoretically at the age of Pisces. Right at the end of the age of Pisces. So I was going to ask you, is there something like an anaretic degree to an age like there is to the calendar of the sign?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good question, and I would say the answer to that is yes. And if we could, the way that I work with those final degrees is that the 27th and the 28th degrees tend to be kind of all over the place energetically. Like the sign itself is getting ready to kind of supernova. And then the energy is kind of uncontrollable. And then at the 29th degree, everything just goes flat. Like it's just flat. And theoretically it sort of implodes in on itself. There's nothing left. And then at the 0 degree, it's reborn into a new sign, right? So that's what happened. That's how I see those degrees take place. And I would say that we are in the 27th and 28th degree of the Piscean age.
Right? It feels that way, right?
Yeah, because everything is just all over the place.
It is.
It's just nuts. It's nuts. And the sign opposite of Pisces is Virgo. So theoretically, there isn't a lot of order, and the order that is trying to establish itself is in some ways tyrannical and absurd and sick, really.
Mm-hmm.
So,
no other way to put it.
Yeah, so we're it's like this anti-order is trying to establish itself, and so we're in this time where you're going to see a lot of upheaval and not a lot of stability and solidity. But when we get to that point where theoretically the age does become anoretic, everything goes flat, and there's nothing left. I mean, think of let's just play this out in terms of time, because I really feel I've been not working with, but there's a fellow who is very interested in the end of the Kali Yuga and the beginning of the next Yuga, and through his calculations, he believes it's 2030, and I actually think that there's some truth to that. Now, it may not match up with other calculations, but I actually think that there's some truth to that, because, what are we talking about? We're talking about Agenda 2030, and there's some very interesting astrological alignments we're going to be going through before we get to 2030. And if you guys remember, when I did the presentation in Kerrville, I started at 2030 and worked backwards. And I would assume that somewhere around 2028, maybe 2029, let's just make it real anoretic, that there's nothing left. And we would have been through, since 2020, 9 years of this turmoil, and 9 years of this drama, and 9 years of this insanity and madness.
Yeah.
And at that point, what's going to be left? Like, what will people have emotionally to be able to spend, on their attention? Not much, because it'll be, it'll be emptied out by then. Hold on a second. Jasper created some more chaos. Go ahead. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? Let me fix what I have to do here.
Oh, all right. So this is an image of it's called Copa Conan, and so this is one of the Selkie stories from Scotland, from the Faroe Islands, and so her Selkie story was. So this is a great statue that they have here, as she is removing her skin.
Yeah, and then you can look down in her left hand. She's got
seal skin.
The seal skin, and you can see the face of the seal.
Right. So, as in most Selkie stories, so she takes off her skin. A local absconds with it, and then usually what happens is actually it's kind of a nice story. They usually have a decent marriage. They'll have a decent marriage. They'll have children. Apparently Selkies are great cooks for seafood. Nice, no surprise there. And so they would have a life at some point, usually have a number of children. And this is the story that's told in Roninish. It's a backstory that goes to the front story of the family line. And usually there's a lineage. So usually there are some in the family that will have black eyes, like the Selkies, and black hair. And they'd be just, a little different than everyone else, right? And they'd be usually great sailors and great fisher folk. So, but what this story, this particular story in the Faroe Islands is something of a tragic one, because I guess she returns to the sea and then someone kills her husband and children, and I never got exactly how that happened, so that she curses that person and the island, and all sorts of things happen for a certain amount of time. So that's the Copacabana version of the Selkie story. Most of them are just, they return to the sea, and they, once they return to the sea, they cannot come back. They just don't.
Mhm.
There's no rescinding that agreement. But they're just, they'll pick up, they speak a form of Gaelic that's much older than anyone can remember. That sort of thing. So and seals are, so and you can see that if you believe in the myths coming from mundane events, you can see how seals would lead to the mermaid stories and things like that.
That's a good shot.
Yeah, it's a good shot. That's a still from Roninish,
Mhm.
where he's about to Hermes abscond with the
Do
the
we
seal
have
skin.
time to play that audio? Or-
Sure. It's just the audio part. So it is.
But we could leave
Well-
this up.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, well, the thing with
That image.
the thing with so you might need a second of setting up, because the little girl is returning to the island of Roninish, and with her family, and they meet with like one of their cousins, who is obviously one of the
Black
people, the
Irish.
black-eyed one, who's a little different, and he's the one who's talking to her about her family story.
Okay.
So that's
And he's very intense.
Yeah,
It's too
he's very-
bad there's no visual, but
Yeah.
his whole demeanor is very intense. You may get it from the voice.
All right. Let's hear.
Let's see
let's
how
hear
it goes.
this.
Sweet.
Nope, don't hear anything.
Can't hear it.
Hold on. See, this is the problem with not sharing this vis-a-vis YouTube. Hold on. Because it doesn't give me the option to share audio. Try this. Video. Okay.
While you're doing that, one other thing about the Selkies is that they supposedly, one story is that they shed their skins once a year on the 13th night, which I assume would be, the day, the 12th night is the night of the Epiphany. So it would be the night after that, after the Christmas cycle ends.
I've not heard that.
Let me try this again. Let me see if I can.
And well, maybe we could also, at the same time, direct people to go look for the movie, The Secret of Roan Inish, Roan,
Yeah.
Roan Inish.
John Sayles directed
John
it.
Sayles. Yeah. Mhm.
Who's done some interesting movies. So
And
I didn't realize he did.
Our all-time favorite film about Ireland and the little people is The Fairy Faith, and that's on.
Well, I had to buy it on
Is it
Vimeo
on YouTube now?
parts.
Well, anyway, if you can find that one, it's just a dream.
So the only way I can play this is if I play it through my computer.
Well,
So
I don't think it's really, because we kind of covered the story.
okay, all right. Let's. Why don't we keep going here?
Okay.
All right. So the next image is going to be the Clonfert, right? The Clonfert Cathedral Mermaid.
Right. So I guess we can move into mermaids, and the Irish word for it is a merrow, MERROW.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just the interesting thing. So mermaids are always they always have a comb, and it's always like a fishbone comb.
Mm-hmm.
The other interesting thing, this is from a medieval Irish cathedral, and they have that and what are called shielna gigs, which are these bizarre female figures holding open their yonis. With the yonis are enlarged Vesica Pisces to sort of, fertility.
Right.
And again, mermaids are connected with fertility, but just the fact that they put them at one point in the Celtic church, they had no problem putting these things on, as art on their cathedral. Did you say something?
No, I was just noticing that. Are these things working?
You're not hearing?
I'm not. No, go ahead. It's all right. It's just my own.
Anyway,
wondering.
and one of the things about the Meros, which I found really interesting, is that in order for them to travel on land, they have to have a red cap. So they don't have the skin ditching thing, but they have a red cap, and again, and so this is the other thing that ties into sort of the mushroom lore of Ireland. So you think of red caps, also Phrygian caps.
Yeah.
Are also red, and a lot of people think that's indicative of a psychedelic mushroom cult. And that also goes back when we're talking about the salmon in the wells, right? And they often eat a red berry.
Sometimes they call it the rowan berry.
Right.
And sometimes it's a hazelnut.
Isn't the rowan a tree? Right. So
sometimes it's a hazelnut, which they would call a berry as well.
Right. And if it's so red again, so a lot of people think that's code for, again, entheogenic mushroom cults. So I don't know what else we got. So they've got this little magic cap.
This is a famous picture right here. Right there.
Right.
Yeah,
so
isn't
that's
that exquisite?
William Waterhouse. We have this real fondness for the pre-Raphaelite painters. I think we saw an exhibition at the Met once.
Yeah, it was just to die for.
It was wonderful.
So beautiful.
So here's his depiction of a mermaid. Again, she's combing.
Yeah.
Her long, and then of course she doesn't have red cap, but she has red hair.
Red hair. Yeah.
Right. And just it's just it's a great painting. Like I said, we're real fond of his work. I don't know if I got much else on things about mermaids. Of course, the Jungians and the sort of depth psychologists always attribute them to maybe our navigational ability through the unconscious or aspects of the unconscious, because they travel and they swim in deep waters, and they have all that kind of thing about it, and they're they're an amalgam of the human. And of course, if you're Darwinian, one of them walked out of the ocean at some time and started the whole shebang here on land, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not much of a Darwinian.
Well, the more that I have delved into this stuff and looked at these images, these pictures, these mythological beings, the tales that go along with them, I'm convinced that a lot of them were literal. I think a lot of them were literal. I think these creatures, these beings, they were here. They were here. They were part of a story. They were part of another story. And it's amazing how a lot of them are really cross-cultural. You'll find them. Mermaids. Mermaids. It's going to go there. You'll find mermaids everywhere, right?
Right.
So one can make a case that, it's one of those archetypal images swimming around the collective unconscious. You could also make a case that maybe they actually existed, and maybe they still actually exist in some ways, because the world that we live in, I think, is a lot stranger than people understand, and strange in a good way, in an interesting kind of magical way, also strange in a kind of a surreal way. And maybe this also kind of ties into our time, right? Because we're living with this sort of, this immersion of high strange, but it's high strange in a way that is almost like, it's clown world. It's a carny show. It's like, Todd Browning's movie, The Freaks, but it's this version of this high strange or this unusual world that is not really discussed or not explored or not being explicated. So it has to come out in a different kind of way, right? It's sort of like this case of collective repression. So instead of understanding things like Tartaria, our hidden history, whatever that is, these giants that lived here, these mythological beings, I mean, this pantheon of potential that could be a lot more real than we understand. Instead, all that stuff is kind of buried, closeted up, and then put away. But what we get is we get that kind of unresolved version of that with this kind of bizarre version of hybrid male, female, creatures walking around. I mean, to me, that's kind of what we're living through. And one of the reasons why we're living through it is because this other reality kind of wants to break through. And I think to some extent it is. So what we're experiencing is kind of the repressed simulacra of this very unusual, very strange, very surreal, and potentially even magical prehistory or reality that we all kind of have a sense of, but has never really been talked about or addressed or dealt with. And if it has, it's from the level of myth, which is not bad. I mean, we can learn a lot from myths, but I think there could be something much deeper and a lot more visceral and real.
But we also dismiss experiences with the word myth, that's also used to lock us in a closet and say, oh, that's just a myth.
Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. We can learn a lot from myth, right?
Even the word itself, right, got downgraded to a lie. It wasn't originally, it didn't originally mean that.
Yeah. That's a great way to dismiss people who have great imagination.
Yeah.
Well,
and to kill the imagination.
Yeah. Well, that's it. So my one time doing ayahuasca, the thing I took from it most strongly and beautifully was the fact, because when you do that, you move into the mythic time, and you move into the sort of where the timeless and time intersect. And I understood clearly that all mythology is happening all the time. It's not like a story that it's always happening, and it's part of the structure as well. And as you said, it is underlying a lot of what we have, but we've built this solid edifice over it. And it doesn't matter how well we build that edifice; it's on a mythological, slippery, eternal footing.
Yeah, it's like we've plugged up the well.
And
plugged up the whole well.
And so the dikes are going to burst here and there. And I'll tell you, one of the places that have been bursting for us, and I'll tell this just because it has to deal with water. We are finding that cooking, because we're cooking so much at home now, has gotten really weird. So that either the time it takes to cook something or the amount of water. And I could take the same, half a cup of rice, and it'll take, the 1 cup to cook that rice. And then like 3 days later, it'll take 3 cups of water to do that rice.
Wow.
Or it'll take 2 hours to cook the rice. And this is what's been going on. We're finding that with our cooking all the time. It's just so weird. The coffee, the same pot, the same coffee, the same amount of water, takes 8 minutes, takes 15 minutes, takes 6 minutes. It's just been really weird, and all of them involve water,
right?
And of course we know water is a carrier of a lot of things, including the complete, substrate of existence, really. So that's one of the things that we've noticed that cooking has just got really bizarre. You don't know, I made a lamb stew, and usually if you throw like carrots in a pot of stew, they'll cook in a half an hour. It took 2 hours to cook a couple of thinly sliced carrots in the stew, in a crock pot. So I was just saying, as you said, it's weird.
And not only that, aren't we 85% water?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So you take us as water and electromagnetism. That's also part of our makeup. We're electronic. So we short circuiting us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's just kind of funny. It's one of those things. Everyone's having their own version of the bizarreness, right?
So you're having a mutable relationship with water.
Yeah, and time.
Water, cooking, and time.
And
Mhm.
time.
Interesting.
You know.
Well, time certainly seems to be way, way more relative than it's ever been.
Mhm.
It's
It does.
very, yeah,
It's been
way
that
more.
way for a while. It's been working toward that, but it really has accelerated in that vein.
Yeah, like January lasted a year, and 2020 lasted a month.
I know.
Right.
For me,
Right.
maybe not for other people. That was my subjective
Sure.
and
What
relative
else is there?
relationship with time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So this is Astagatis, is a Syrian goddess that is considered the template for mermaids.
Mhm.
All right, and so I don't know a heck of a lot about her, but she was worshipped in Greece and Rome. As a there's nothing. I don't come up any really interesting stories about her. But was once, but all these deities is interesting too, because we saw the little ring. It's got a little like an egg in there. So that the mermaids also tend to be fertility deities and
So
signs of fertility.
You've got two phalluses here, and then
Right.
you've got the egg in the center.
Huh.
Right.
Yeah.
Did not
Right.
even see it that way.
So that's on a very old Assyrian. I guess it's an Assyrian coin. I'm not sure. That's
Are these fish at the top? What are these?
Could be two fish.
You know what? It
hard
almost
to
looks
tell.
like it looks
Also-
like a shaft of wheat.
Yes, so they're also these deities are associated with both water and shafts of wheat at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So it's the fertility, because
Oh,
most
right.
of these
That's
people
the wheat.
lived.
That looks like
Yeah.
wheat. Yeah.
I think
So they lived off the land and the sea.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
A lot of these, especially obviously around the Mediterranean, right?
Uh-huh.
Right.
So the bounty of the sea was was extremely important to them. And I think there's another image of her next.
This is very elaborate. This one.
Right.
This is a nice one. It's on the frieze of a building, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's from a temple.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, look at the bird on top. What's that?
Right. So it's got the eagle or the phoenix, maybe on the top. That was
emerging out of the crown.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And so this is, and then of course all the floral stuff. Found in 1936. I don't know too much else about this. I just found this on a bunch of I forget which even museum this is in, but it's it looks like it's fairly ancient.
Yeah, and even up here at the crown chakra. So she's got like where the crown chakra would be and the forehead. She's got like flowering, some indicator there.
Yeah, something's going on here, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Why do that otherwise? It's not just curly cues from her hair, because that's a different style.
Yeah, and she's kind of got like the big hair of the 80s
She does.
going on there. Maybe it's the
Right.
80 BCs.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's the goddess, and there's this interesting. I came across this interesting condition. Not interesting. I'm sure it's horrible. Siren Omelia.
Like siren, the word
Like
sirens.
so from the word siren,
Mhm.
and Siren Amelia, which is where people are born with their legs together.
fused.
They're fused, and it's fatal. It's rare, but then again, the physicalists think that that's where the mermaids come from. So I thought this is really interesting. So this is a Japanese version of a mermaid. I just noticed the 3 eyes on its side too. That's really cool.
Oh.
So the Japanese,
three gonads
and of course there are mermen also.
Mhm.
This one is, as indistinct as some of our politicians.
Right. Exactly.
So anyway, but we're then the next picture is of Barnum and Bailey and his circus had what he claimed was a mermaid. And it was apparently made in Japan, so they apparently made it for him there. And you can see it seemed to be modeled after that old print or something that's been in a lot of Japanese prints.
That's interesting. I actually referenced Barnum and Bailey. when I was talking about like the circus show or the clown show.
Right.
Here we are. Yeah, interesting.
Right. So that's I think that may have been the actual thing that he had assembled and that he used in his circus as one of those. I guess they had one of those freak show tents or something like
Right.
that.
Yeah, Todd Browning, Freaks, the movie Freaks. That's exactly
right.
that's exactly what I was talking about.
Right.
Talking about free. Interesting. Right. Yeah. Wow. So we have the intersection of the two things. We have this kind of theoretical, mythological, perhaps not so mythological past, and then the sideshow. And we're living in the sideshow.
We're living.
Yep. We got Carney's. What's the I forget the Thomas the Tom Waits line. Bark you down like Carney's. Sell you Christmas cards in June. There's all Carney. I feel like the whole world is turning to Carney barkers.
And everybody's a mark. Everybody's a mark, right?
Everybody's a mark.
Right.
Good point, Robert. Yeah.
Here we go.
Stay awake, people.
So as to also what you're saying about different traditions. So this is Hanuman, the monkey, riding a mermaid in a piece of Indian art. I don't know.
Well, that last image looked like it had a monkey head.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It may have been one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of that Ian Brown song when dolphins were monkeys, and that didn't like the land. Anyway, just a little aside. Here we go. So we've got Hanuman, and we've got this lovely nubile mermaid.
These are like So these could cross over to Cambodian apsaras. Mm-hmm. With that pointed headdress.
So the air spirits are the version to this water spirits. I don't know too much about this, but of course in Greek they have the nymphs.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we thought that was a nice piece of art, and I forget what we got. I think what else?
Well, there's the fish god at the end. The next.
Well, we also have the Starbucks thing. That if you want to go through that.
Well, we have the Greek sirens. You want to talk about them?
Oh yes, let's go through them.
That's the best painting of all.
Right, the sirens everyone knows from maybe not. Everyone knows from Odysseus, from the Odyssey, and so at one point they're passing the sirens, the island of the sirens, and of course they lure you
onto
your rocks to the destruction of the ships. Odysseus is told beforehand that he's got to pass them. And he's told to put a wax in the ears of everyone on the ship. But Odysseus, being Odysseus is a serious Hermes character too. So he's like the poster boy for tricksterism in the Greek.
Yeah.
Poster man, poster guy, poster hero. So he decides. So he says, "Well, lash me to the mast. Don't listen to and I'll scream and you won't hear me." This must have been good wax they had, but he wants to hear the song of the siren. So this is a typical theme with Odysseus is to be able to get it both ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he gets to be slyly passed through. Now the original, you go to the next picture. That's another John. I think that's another John Waterhouse.
Okay.
So the original sirens were birds. And then eventually, the harpies are also birds, but the sirens seem similar, but not the same. So it's interesting that they transform from birds into mermaids.
Isn't that exquisite?
Into their talons turned into tails, fish tails. So. So this is John Waterhouse again, and it's just the detail of his work is just so wonderful.
Yeah.
Even just the way the splash of the waves on the end of the oar, which you consider like a throwaway thing, but it really gives life to the painting, and the various kind of turbans, I guess that are stopping up the ears.
Yeah, and you can just look at the creases and the folds and everything.
It's incredible.
It's tremendous, and the detail on the lions' heads. Look at that.
Right.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. And look at the one on the bottom middle is just like staring into the sailor's face.
It's just like right up in his face.
Yeah.
It's just great. So You know, so the sirens, you know, are, you know, that's you know, I don't know a lot more of the tradition, but you know, it's that luring. So the mermaids tend to be friendly. You
Mhm.
know, the Merrows tend to be friendly. The Selkies tend to be their tendency to be friendly. The sirens, of course, are the opposite.
Mhm.
So they're the dark side of
Mhm.
the aquatic creatures, and they lure you to your death. And of course, the word siren is you know, become, you know, synonymous with you know, with sexual luring, with
Right.
It's also
promiscuity and
it's
prurience.
interesting because it's also, you know, been translated into alarm.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Right.
When you hear
Something that you can't ignore.
yeah, it's an alarm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So did you ever hear the Beasts of Paradise version of Song of the Siren? Have you ever heard that?
Their version?
Yeah.
Are you sure? I only know the you're not talking about Beasts of Paradise. Maybe you are, but I don't know their version. The best
Yeah,
one is the Cocteau Twins This Mortal Coil version.
right. Beasts of Paradise used to do it. Beasts of Paradise, of course, was a group with Stephen Kent and Ida Maxim. And Ida was the singer. And Ida was pregnant with their daughter at the time. And so I went on tour with them for about 6 dates throughout the Southwest. And she would sing Song of the Siren. And that was always one of the most emotional kind of moments of the show because she was clearly pregnant. And there was this real sense that she was connecting, you know, with, you know, their soon to be daughter, Stella. And that there was always something really magical and profound happening during that one song in the performance, because you know, Stella was aqueous, right? She was still in that aqueous world,
Right.
and there's this singing, this going back and forth, well, at least towards from Ida to Stella, and Stella went on to become a really great vocalist. I mean, my God, fantastic vocalist. But then she peeled off and started to move away from that and lived her own life, which is great. So some of that must have come through because her vocal power was tremendous and her presence was tremendous.
It's an amazing song. It's written by, and of course there's that, so if you want to get into the weird water story, but I maybe that one didn't make it on a record. Maybe you just heard them do it live.
Yeah, it could be.
Because I have their records and I don't see that on there. The other one I know is Elizabeth Fraser from the Cocteau Twins singing on the first This Mortal Coil, and it's absolutely that's just absolutely stunning version. You know, and if you don't know the song, it's the siren calling you. It's someone standing on a shoreline trying to decide whether or not to take their own life by walking out into the water. And the sirens singing to her, come to me, let me enfold you, for here I am waiting to hold you. Oh, it's just, I get chills just even thinking about it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, you know the story with Tim Buckley and his son Jeff Buckley.
That's right. And
right,
Jeff Buckley drowned.
Jeff Buckley drowned. So Jeff Buckley's the father. He's
Tim
never
Buckley's
really,
the father. Tim
Buckley's the father. Thank you.
And Jeff Buckley drowned.
Right, but both drowned.
You both drowned. I mean, yes.
Tim Buckley drowns.
Yep.
And then Jeff Buckley, apparently he didn't have any relationship with his father. Right, goes swimming on some river on the way to do some recording, right?
Yeah.
And then they just found him downstream, so he ends up, you know, dying the same way as his father. I mean, it's really, you know, one of those wild stories.
Boy, a lot of people recorded Song of the Siren.
Oh man, even Robert Plant of all people.
Let's see.
I had like about 5 versions. Sinead
O'Connor, Brian Ferry, George Michael.
I didn't know that one.
Sheila Chandra. Yeah.
I love Sheila Chandra's. She can't sing anymore. You know that?
I did not
she's
know
lost.
that.
Yeah, she's got some bizarre disease where speaking causes her intense pain. Any vocalization.
Wow.
So she can't. So she stopped singing. She started writing. And she can like speak for like maybe 10 minutes a day, and other than that, she goes into intense pain. I forget what it was. Because I was trying to check up on her because I hadn't heard anything from her because I, you know, love her singing. you know.
I discovered her with Monsoon.
Right.
Ever So
Right.
Lonely.
Ever
Great
So
song.
Lonely.
Oh, beautiful song.
Yeah. Those are great stuff. That's a great, you know, and she was like 16, 15 when that came out. But yeah, anybody's interested, like on Peter Gabriel's label, Real World Records, is where you find her stuff. So she does sort of like these Indian scat kind of vocalizations that are really, really interesting, really nice.
So, Song to the Siren is on Gathered on the Edge by Beasts of Paradise.
Really, maybe I don't have that one. I thought I became a Stephen Kent completist before the first gathering in Texas.
It's worth checking out. So this is a pretty erotic painting here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's that aspect of the siren. You know, look at him; he's powerless.
Totally. And she's got her tail wrapped around his leg. He doesn't have a chance.
He's on his way. He's on his way under the water.
But he's going to die happy.
Well, and he's got a red cap too.
He does have a red cap.
And just that
Absolutely.
little, and whatever that is, I guess it's a fish basket, right? So you can see. So the fish. That's interesting. I didn't notice that before. The fish basket of fish is turned over. He's lost his
right there. Yeah.
He's lost his ability in the fish of going back into the water. Wow,
so is this a metaphor for like an obsessive sort of Plutonian archetypal love that will take you kind of out of the rational and logical world and into the underworld, into this kind of undertow of emotion where you have no control? I mean, is this kind of a metaphor for this?
An argument could be made.
Yep. Or
think.
it's a metaphor for the trance. You know, for the trance of the machine,
of the
dragging you
narrative.
down. You know, the trance of the
Let's
narrative.
say the
Everyone.
narrative.
You know, everyone's in some form of a trance. You know, and being seduced. You can just look at that. You can just put media over her. You know, and have that sort of thing going on, or games, or whatever, or iPhone.
Well, it's that iteration of Pisces which is narcoticized.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Women in Love? Ken Russell, the movie Women in Love, the D.H. Lawrence book.
No, I may have read it though a long time ago.
It's a great movie. I think it's one of the greatest movies ever made, and it's with Oliver Reed and Alan Bates and Glenda Jackson, and what's her name? Maggie Smith. And it's about two couples. And so it's Victorian era England. And there's a lot that goes on in the movie, but there's this one sort of subtext of the film where there's a couple in the village that are young and they're madly in love. Like they're in the bubble. And you see them, and then you don't see them for a while, and then eventually word gets out that they have found them, but they've both drowned in the river that goes through the town, and there's no sense of any discontent with the two. There's no sense that they were, suicidal or there was foul play. So you have to make this leap from this couple who are young and madly in love and in the bubble, but then they wind up in the river. And it has a similar quality to this, right? That they're drawn down by something that has this power over them that they can't really control in some ways. And because there's no logical explanation as to why they would take their lives or why they would die in such a fashion. So it's a really good movie, and that scene stands out, and it reminds me of this undertow where people kind of lose themselves in some ways, and it's not always a bad thing to lose yourself, but it's one of those kind of cautionary tales around love, right? That love can be really intoxicating, but it can also take you into depths that you're not prepared to deal with. And I think a lot of people have had relationships that have taken them into those places.
Oh,
at
certainly.
Yeah,
times.
for sure. Reminds me of also of Ophelia in Hamlet being and that's the description of her death by Queen Gertrude in Hamlet is actually probably the most beautiful speech in the poem in the play, where she describes Ophelia being more, and it's like a surrender to the substrate of nature for Ophelia in the description of it. I write about that in my book. It's a great scene. So I don't want to.
Here we go.
All right, so we can quickly move through the Starbucks thing, but the Starbucks is what did I say? There's nothing else about it. Anyway, Starbucks is a particular goddess. That's the original goddess that was that Starbucks took for its image, and it's the name of it is, sorry, take me time, Melusine, Melusine, or Melusina. All right, and so now we get back to the two, so it runs us back to the beginning of
Two
the twin
fish, two
tails.
tails.
The
Yep.
Tails.
So it's got two tails, and I don't know if it's in the next one. It has a real strong connection to alchemists. They use that a lot. But of course, the obvious thing is that someone decided to use a type of siren anyway to lure people into the Starbucks.
Absolutely.
And have, and again, it's almost like the other picture where, I don't know, I drank, it was like I never went to Starbucks because the coffee sucked.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had local coffee houses that make beautiful, delicious coffee, and why would I go to Starbucks? It was like the worst coffee available. But for some reason, people, I don't know whether they got inured to it or what. I don't know what it is, but they just love it, right? And they'll, so one of the nice things about Asheville when it was Asheville was that there were no Starbucks in town. There were just other coffee houses. There was one chain from South Carolina tried to open up, and people wouldn't go to it. They had to close. People ignored them. For the local coffee houses, which is great. Like I said, it was when Asheville was Asheville. But and apparently
the Starbucks thing blows my mind. So there's a Starbucks that just opened up just kind of outside the edge of town here because they couldn't be inside the quote unquote city limits. But it's right across from the gym I work out at. And I'll park my car and I'll kind of get my shit together and go to the gym. And I'll sit there and this is like 5:30 at night. I'll see 6 or 7 cars lined up in the drive-thru for Starbucks at 5:30 at night. Like, what's that all about? I mean, I have 1 cup of coffee in the morning. That's it. Boom, done. But I think I guess other people have multiple cups of coffee because I know they're not going through Starbucks to get food.
Right.
Maybe they're going through to get some kind of cold drink, but they're getting coffee and they're getting their super, sugary, latte, mate, whatever drinks.
And they probably sell sugary desserts too.
Yeah, but it's constant. It's not like, okay, we're just going to get it's constant for, and this is like late in the afternoon. You would think morning, okay, I got it. But it's a really interesting phenomenon. And I don't know of other like coffee shops that would have that traffic. It's like 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, they also make themselves very convenient. Like, they have one in a local supermarket. They have a Starbucks.
Their marketing strategy is if there is a local coffee shop that's successful in town, they want to be within a block of it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember my parents growing up, my parents would put out a pot of coffee after dinner every night. And they would drink coffee. They had no trouble going to sleep.
Wow.
You get used to it.
All right.
So this guy's very interesting, isn't he?
So this is Dagon. So this is the god of the Philistines. but anyway, so this is like it's the second to last image I think we have, but this is a fairly famous depiction of this fish deity. I mean, it's just perfect. This whole head forms into the hat of a fish, and then he's got those mystical pocketbooks that everyone has been trying to figure out.
That show up at Göbekli Tepe.
And they show up at Göbekli Tepe. They show
And
up
they show
everywhere.
at Buckingham Palace.
And they show up at, that's right, the little bitty.
The Queen is
Buckingham
always
Palace that carries one of these little purses. And of course, a lot of people, the scuttlebutt in a lot of circles is that it's a free energy device. My feeling is like, why would you need to carry one in a purse? But there's obviously something to it. What it is,
It's always the same shape.
No one's ever kind of, deciphered it as far as I can tell. But so he's unified with being a fish. He's got a Rolex on too, which is
I saw that. Those
I know.
He's got two. He's rocking two.
He's got two. Yeah, right. Or maybe So
and he's got the bishop's hat that the Pope wears.
Right. So this is the
You
other.
can
Yes.
see
So
the
talk about
origin.
that.
What? What about it?
Well, just say this sort of connection with the
Okay.
Vatican.
I don't know what you
That
mean.
the Vatican come from. The bishop's hat looked like that, and then the Vatican. This whole
I thought I
Vatican
just
thing
did.
comes from these fish gods, and that they have this real connection to them that are depending on who you talk to, demonic or fertility or whatever.
Yeah, I'm actually right now reading Father Malachi Martin's book, Windswept House, and it gives some really interesting background on the Vatican.
Right. And Dagon, you're right, it is really interesting. So this Dagon is a fertility, again, another fertility and reproduction, and the word dag means fish.
Well, it's interesting because it gets very close to Dagon, which you almost
That's what
said.
I was
Right,
thinking
which I
that.
did say. But, yes.
And their creator god Nomo was a fish god.
A fish, right?
Yeah.
Right.
He was a kind of fish human avatar deity.
Right.
Very curious.
And yes, so and then what's his name? Has done a lot of work on connecting them with the Egypt and
With Laird Scranton.
Laird Scranton.
Oh, Laird Scranton. Yeah. So I think that's it.
So I think that's all we brought to the table, as far as images and what have you. The other thing we didn't talk about, I think, was that the two Pisces are very much connected. I think also with the Yin Yang sign. The Yin Yang sign is basically emerges, I think, from two fish swimming. And the eye of each of them being the spot.
I think it's even
of the
depicted that
opposite.
way in some art. Yeah.
And then the fish are also, and sign, the actual sign for Pisces is very close to the sign for Gemini also.
It is.
Where
You get that duality thing going on with the two of them. Yeah. And they both happen to be mutable signs, changeable signs. Well, this has been great. Let me check in with Chatlandia, see what they're up to. Although I may have to go into the void. No, I'm here.
Well, we actually have a tablet with it running here. I don't know if Chris has been looking at it.
A little bit.
So we got great presentation, Chris and Steve.
Thank you.
Dagon came out of the Persian Gulf to give knowledge to people. He promised to return. We're waiting. That's a theme.
Yep.
It's the same thing with Nomo.
And Arthur and everybody.
Yep.
And Jesus. Fine. Throw him in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
40 in cap.
well, so we have go ahead.
No, so Misty Minor brought this up about Starbucks, and I was going to mention it actually. She says it's a lifestyle brand. They have convinced you it makes others think you are alive. I totally agree with that. That was one of the things I thought about, was that it has morphed into a lifestyle brand, just like when
I don't know what that means.
Well, like when what should we call it? Not the iPad, but iTunes and the iTunes player. When the iTunes player came out, having the white earbuds there was like a lifestyle brand. You were making a statement.
I see.
It was like, oh look, I have Apple earbuds.
Oh, it's like dig me, I'm cool.
Right.
That kind
right.
of thing?
There's a status. There's an element of status that's associated with it, and I think she's right about Starbucks because they're not cheap. Starbucks is not cheap. It's not they're expensive. Their drinks are expensive. So number one, you can afford a Starbucks drink. That's on a minor level says something, but it has become, I think, associated with status and brand in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she's right.
Yeah, sneakers, another one that's very much like that.
Well, I'm going to guess they just repeat that often enough, like you buy us and you're in with the in crowd, and it goes back to repetition.
Well, it's
repetition
it's a mirror.
just makes things true, right? So even if someone's caught doing something horribly dishonest, they just double down, right? So the repetition never leaves its track. And
Right.
It works.
It
They
can
do that
work
because it works.
Yeah, mostly I think it does work. And I think there's some crossover there with advertising, but you could spend a lot of money on something. You could throw a lot of money at something and advertise it, and it may not have the ability to catch on in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know anything off the top of my head, but if you gave me 2 minutes, I could probably think of a few.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with the right symbolism, like Starbucks, that I think the symbol of that mermaid,
Right.
and the mermaid it goes from being this almost alchemical kind of figure with that first version to this really cleaned up, kind of modern edge version of this thing. I think that's the abstraction, but the symbol is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So the symbolism coupled with the repetition is mesmerizing.
Right, it is. But what's interesting about Starbucks?
It's like casting a spell.
Starbucks doesn't really advertise on TV. You ever notice that? You don't see Starbucks commercials on TV.
I wouldn't notice,
well,
but
we
that's
don't know
interesting.
because we don't watch TV.
You don't see Starbucks commercials on TV. They've managed to create a brand without dominating the TV media space.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. No Starbucks jingles.
There's no Starbucks jingles.
So how did they get their message out? What's their
so it was the genesis of Starbucks was, it obviously comes from Seattle, and Howard Schulman was the guy who started Starbucks. And I actually lived in Seattle when Starbucks was just getting off the ground. And there was another coffee company in Seattle called SBC, which was Seattle's best coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And they were competing. Now, Howard Schulman had studied with Pete, of Pete's Coffee. So he decided that he wanted to start his own coffee franchise. And they're not even franchised, by the way. Starbucks aren't franchised. But so he wanted to do that. So he studied with this guy, Pete. And Pete's Coffee is really big in the Bay Area in California. And they had a very distinct way of roasting their beans. They kind of roasted on the dark side, on the crispy side, which gave their coffee more robust flavor and aroma. And that's what Starbucks did, although they took it even further, I think, in some ways. So he took the Pete's formula, which was successful in terms of flavor, and then he created this brand around this. The symbolism with the mermaid, I think, is really very powerful. And so Starbucks began to grow regionally. It was kind of like if you went to Colorado, you wanted to get Coors. That's how Starbucks was. If you wanted to go to, if you were in Seattle, you had to go to Starbucks. Like you had to get this coffee. So they established a very strong local presence, and then they wound up dominating SBC, which I think is still around, but was not nearly as successful as Starbucks. And then they started to move out kind of bioregionally, and I think that's how they got their foothold. And then once they were able to move into places like Oregon and California, it was just gone. They were going to take off for this whole thing. And I think that their marketing, not really marketing, but positioning and finding that coffee store in town, that little mom and pop coffee store, and be within a block of that coffee store, that was, I think, a big key to their success.
So they already had an established traffic pattern, and they just kind of sucked
And
that
you're
away
already-
from the other store.
Right, you're
Exactly.
already looking for coffee.
Yeah, so people are already
Exactly.
accustomed to going in that neighborhood.
Yeah, so it was predatory. Starbucks is predatory.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Walmart.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I was wondering, was the spread of Starbucks concomitant with the spread of grunge?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, like I said, there were two competing coffee companies in Seattle at that time, which is very Piscean, right? There was two, not one, but two.
Right.
And maybe, I mean, Seattle's a place where you want to drink coffee. It's cold.
Mm-hmm.
It's dark.
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting a lot of vitamin D and heliotropic, radiance. So you want to stay energized. I mean, you can make a killing with coffee in Seattle. So he had the right idea, but his legacy in Seattle is terrible because he wound up selling the Seattle Supersonics to these guys from Oklahoma, these carpetbaggers from Oklahoma who would then steal the team and move them. And then they said, "Oh, we're not going to we're not going to move the team." Right. So then they forced the city of Seattle to essentially build them a new stadium, a new venue. And they knew politically that the people of Seattle had no stomach for that. They were not going to throw down. They said, well, we have Key Arena and we'll make some improvements. Well, you've reneged on your deal. We can't stay here. We can't look, Oklahoma City will do this. And what's interesting is that team, the Oklahoma City Thunder, were kind of cursed. One of the owners died. One of the co-owners of that team died. The other one, I think, got into big trouble with some kind of financial scandal. And then they had these three really tremendous young players, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden. And they were one game away from beating the Golden State Warriors and moving on to the NBA Finals. And the Warriors wound up coming back and beating them. And then after that team began to disintegrate. They traded James Harden, and then Durant leaves and goes to the Warriors, and Russell Westbrook is nuts, and he's not there anymore. So it's almost like the team was cursed, and that is kind of like another sort of mermaid or siren-like tale. And the team got drawn, to Oklahoma, which is in the south, or more south than Seattle is. And they've never recovered. They've never recovered from that time where they were almost right at the precipice of becoming this great young team. And then you watch it. And now those guys, they don't even own that team anymore. I think they might have sold it at this point.
Sure, those three guys, it should have been a dynasty.
Absolutely.
Those three guys and me and you, we win a championship.
A lot of people don't realize or remember that Kevin Durant actually played for the Seattle Supersonics. That was his first team, and he's gone on to three other teams since then. Well, kids, it's been great.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, can we just so can we plug our new venture before we go?
Yeah, you go ahead
very quickly.
Yeah, plug it. Do it. Yeah.
Okay, so you nicely put up a link, a Vimeo link, and so I would encourage everyone to please subscribe to our Vimeo channel, the Logo Sophia Vimeo channel. We have just started our own little venture with conversations with our yoga teacher from New York, who we've reconnected with for a number of years ago. Anyway, we've been having these great late night conversations on the phone. Deep dive into spiritual philosophy, and
there he is.
So that's Gene Kelly.
Gene Kelly.
And so I ask everybody, please subscribe to our channel. It's going to be a BitChute channel, but I'm having trouble getting that. So right now it's up on Vimeo, and as the rest of it, Chris just put up a great little garden tour video. Also a couple of days ago. It's a simple one, but you can just I know a lot of people love traipsing through our garden with Chris. So yeah, so if you subscribe to that, you'll get everything we put up. You know, obviously we're not overloading anybody's notification boxes.
No.
But
But Gene is a treasure, and he's helped us challenged.
yes,
So we're really thrilled to be doing this. So anyone who really wants to do a deep dive and to really look into what makes human beings tick and, how we move through this world, this will be a very helpful hand-holding thing.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Good.
All right.
Excellent. And happy birthday to all the Pisces out there. Of course, today is Joan S's birthday.
It's today. Happy
Is it
birthday,
Joan?
Joan! Oh,
Yes.
Happy birthday to you.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Birthday
And then,
cake?
what's that?
Birthday cake and ice cream?
Maybe.
Mm.
Also, shout out to Elizabeth Donnell, whose birthday is on the 7th. Good friend of the show. And Junior's birthday is on the 8th. So,
Oh, my.
and we're going to celebrate and have seafood tonight. How about that?
Oh, nice.
Oh, good.
Nice.
Good. Well, I hope you guys have a great time.
Thanks a
Enjoy.
lot. Yeah.
That sounds
Enjoy.
wonderful.
All right.
Yeah.
All
Happy
right.
birthday,
Good to
Joan.
see you. I hope everybody enjoyed the show.
We'll see you in a month.
Okay.
All right.
More
We'll
tales to
see
tell.
you
What's next?
tomorrow night. Well, Sunday night.
Sunday
No,
night.
what month? What sign's next?
Oh, it's going to be Aries. You're going to have to
Aries.
become some Aries.
Have to come as Roman warriors.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Robert, thanks.
Okay,
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.
Take care.
All
Listen.
right. Thanks, Robert.
See you.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye.
Okay. That was the Creamies. Great show, right? Always fantastic. Steve is like the 5-tool baseball player. Well, Steve and Chris. But they can just go in so many different directions and bring up really relevant, interesting, and juicy material and content. Chatlandia, thank you. Thanks for being here. I'll be back on Sunday night, this channel. And I'm going to be looking at, of course, the astrology of the week, of the day, of our times. Seems like we're getting a lot of seismic activity happening. And I'm going to try to get into some of that as well, looking at Uranus and Taurus and our ever-changing, ever-shifting domain here on the physical level. I'm going to look at Joe Dispenza's astrological chart, which I found to actually be very interesting. And we're going to dive into Jane Mansfield, Mark Fidrich, all kinds of good stuff. All right, take good care. Use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. And have a great weekend. Bye for now.